Alexander Solenik, known as Sasha the Great, was credited with masterful two-handed shooting skills and an incredible ability to escape from custody. Thessaloniki managed to escape from the capital's Matroskia Tishina pre-trial detention center, the first in the long history of this institution. How did he manage to do this? On October 18, 1960, a son, Sasha, was born into the family of Kurgan robots. During his school years, Thessalonik was no different from his peers, except that he was hyperactive. In order for the child to lose excess energy, his parents sent him to the freestyle wrestling section. Sasha liked this matter, especially since he really loved being praised for his military merits. At these moments, the future killer literally blossomed and seemed to increase in height, which he was shy of, 167 centimeters. Sasha didn't like the teacher. He barely made it to 8th grade and went to a construction college. There, in the basement of the educational institution, there was a shooting range. Thessaloniki attended shooting sessions more often than couples. With grief in half, after graduating from engineering, the guy went into the army. Fate abandoned his military unit located near eastern Germany. When the name of the killer thundered throughout the post-Soviet space, rumors spread that he served in the GRU Special Forces. In fact, it turned out that the recruit's military unit was only located next to the territory where Special Forces were training. Thessaloniki made particular progress in shooting, and his running became much better. The proximity to Special Forces soldiers was not in vain. Thessaloniki returned home with the firm intention of joining the police. With him from the army he brought a bunch of certificates confirming his victory at freestyle wrestling competitions, and an impeccable reference from management. These papers earned Alexander good service when receiving the position of a patrol guard. A little later, he entered the Gorky Higher Police School, but studied there for only 6 months. He explained his departure from the educational institution simply as he was burned out. In fact, he lost his place due to excessive love for the female sex. As soon as he entered police school, he began an affair with the wife of one of the party leaders. He could not stand the insult and did everything to ensure that Alexander lost the opportunity to continue his studies. By that time, Alexander was in dire need of money. He was in his second marriage, he had a son, and his first wife, who gave Alexander a daughter, was waiting for the elements. With the help of friends, Thessalonik managed to get a job at the city cemetery, digging graves. On the very first day, he made friends among his colleagues. The future leaders of the Kurgan organized crime group Oleg Nelyabin, Vitaly Ignatov, and Andrei Kolikov felt a kindred spirit in the newcomer. While the company was just hatching the idea of forming a gang, Solenik's life took a dashing turn. In 1987, he was detained on suspicion of abusing a local resident. According to the criminal case, this happened while the suspect was working in the authorities. Alexander, while on duty, met a girl on the street and invited her to visit. At home, he began to pester a new acquaintance. She refused love pleasures. Judging that nothing would happen to him as a policeman, Solenik did not restrain himself. He himself categorically denied guilt. According to him, everything happened by mutual consent. The judge did not believe Solenik's words and sentenced him to 8 years in a maximum security colony. Those present at the trial watched as he moved towards his wife, who was present in the hall, and supposedly to say goodbye. But I didn't get there. Threatening the judge with rape, he pushed away the guards and jumped out the window from the second floor. Thessaloniki landed without consequences and ran away. A familiar undertaker was waiting for him at the funeral service bureau. He hid the fugitive criminal in a hearse and delivered him to his home without any obstacles. Soon, with the help of future bandits of the Kurgan organized crime group, Thessaloniki moved to Tyumen. But even in another city, paranoia did not leave him. He decided that his appearance was too noticeable and went to a beauty salon to get rid of moles on his face and a crown tattoo on his finger. And then luck turned away from Thessaloniki. One of his acquaintances turned him in and the police were already monitoring the fugitive. Thus, Thessaloniki spent only a month and a half on the run. Having added several more years to his sentence for escape, Alexander was taken with a reinforced escort to a colony located in Perm. The first time was not easy for the newly minted prisoner. The inmates, who fiercely hate men who don't know how to restrain themselves, and the police, immediately tried to put the new guy down. Thessaloniki accepted this battle and came out of it alive, although there was not a single living place left on his body. In the late 80s, the future killer was transferred to a labor colony in the Ulyanovsk region for exemplary behavior. Alexander didn't waste any time there. He decided long ago that he would not serve the entire sentence. It took about 2 years to create the escape plan. On April 3, 1990, Thessaloniki escaped through a kitchen block, overcoming a terrible path to freedom through a sewer pipe. For some time he hid in shady apartments until members of the Tyumen organized crime group came to him. The bandits offered Thessaloniki a job. Remove the leader of the Ishim organized crime group, Nikolai Prikonik, who was annoying them. Alexander was satisfied with the amount of remuneration for his work. He was just planning to move to Moscow for permanent residence. Believing that it would be easier to get lost in a metropolis away from your homeland. In June 1990, Prikonik was eliminated. He became the first victim on the bloody list of the liquidator of Thessaloniki. Having received a fee for completing an important task, the killer went to the capital. His faithful friends were eagerly waiting for him in the White Stone Building. Nelyabin, Kolagov, and Ignatov. They tried in every possible way to lure him over. And they immediately offered their friend the position of full-time killer. He agreed without hesitation. He was settled in a rented apartment in Orekhovo-Zheyovo, near Moscow, from where Thessaloniki was sent on a mission. At the same time, Thessaloniki acquired the nickname Sasha the Great. One day, when the bandits were improving their accuracy skills, he tried to shoot with both hands. Nelyabin noticed this. Since then, the nickname Macedonian has stuck to him. The killer promoted his new nickname as best he could. But, contrary to legend, I never learned how to shoot with both hands. If you believe the testimony of the killer himself, one of his first Moscow victims was the crime boss Viktor Nikiforov, nicknamed Vysya Kalina, popular among thieves. The man did not get his nickname in honor of the berry. Kalina was the name of his mother, who, despite being of the weaker sex, was highly respected among thieves-in-law. There was no blood father next to Nikifor. But the famous authority Vyacheslav Ivankov, nicknamed Yapankik, was considered the betrothed father. It is with the Japanese that Kalina's death is associated. Like the leader of the Orekhovsky organized crime group, Sergei Timofeyev, Silvestrov did not share something with Ivankov. And at the beginning of 1992 he gave the command to eliminate people close to authority. And since it was during this period that the Orekhovsky's rapprochement with the Kurgan organized crime group took place, the trio of leaders decided to help the needed ally. And she betrothed Sylvester Thessaloniki as a performer. He set out to demonstrate his fearlessness to the customer. Alexander watched Kalina for several days and guessed the right moment. On January 14, 1992, Thessaloniki quickly approached the victim from behind. And a point-blank shot in the back of the head from a revolver. Kalina passed away on the spot. And Sylvester was delighted with the new liquidator. Serious competition for women in Sasha the Makedonsky's list of passions included motorcycles and weapons. The last one especially. I never left the house without a gun. He took a suitcase with him in which he always put a pistol. Firstly, he did not rule out the possibility that he might receive an urgent mission. And secondly, being in the status of a newcomer, I was aware of myself. It can be removed at any time for any offense. Salonik organized a weapons depot in a rented apartment on Zelenogradskaya Street. The entire home was a collection of suitcases, boxes of sports bags, filled with guns. And one day the killer lost his wealth. Moore's employees were on the trail of the liquidator and came to search him. Alexander blocked the door and rushed to the window. The sixth floor limited the number of maneuvers, but Thessaloniki managed to escape through the neighboring balconies. Soon after this, Nelyabin Ignatov and Koligov involved him in their problems. The trio was eager to get the Arlikino Entertainment Club, which at that time was owned by the Bauman organized crime group, led by thief-in-law Valery Glugik, nicknamed Globus. The liquidator was given 2 goals. In addition to Globus, his deputy Vladislav Vanner posed a serious danger to the Kurgan people. Glugik was the first to die on the battlefield of the criminal redistribution. Thessaloniki removed it on April 10, 1993. The killer accurately fired bullets into the boss's chest from a distance of 40 meters. Vanner outlived his fellow craftsman by almost a year. On January 17, 1994, he was in a car not far from the shooting club, where he had brought his son to shoot. The child was sitting in the back seat, and a security guard was driving. Nearby on the front passenger side is Vanner. Thessaloniki poured directly through a small hole in the concrete fence. With his first shot he took out the main target. Following him is a bodyguard. The boy was not injured in the shootout. After the liquidation of the Bauman elite, there was a temporary lull in the life of Thessaloniki. He was sometimes involved in showdowns with rebellious traders. Alexander successfully talked some out. Others were let go. October 6, 1994. Killer in the company of another Kurgan thug. I arrived at the Petrovsko-Razumovsky market in order to resolve another conflict. They were walking along the shopping arcades when they heard demands for documents from behind. Turning around, Thessaloniki saw 2 policemen. It was decided to teach them. The liquidator understood that any contact with law enforcement agencies could lead to his arrest. Noticing that the suspicious couple is confused, the policeman demanded to go to the police station. Thessaloniki took this as the road to the scaffold. He categorically did not want to kill policemen. But the liquidator did not plan to go to jail. As a result, he decided to open fire. Both policemen died on the spot from multiple gunshot wounds. Noticing that several more policemen were running towards them, Alexander and his friend rushed in different directions. Killer's companion managed to escape. And Thessaloniki, hiding behind a wide pillar, desperately fired back. He killed another law enforcement officer. She wounded a market security guard and ran away. The liquidator did not reach the rescue routes by a few meters. The bullet fired by the policeman hit him directly in the kidney. And Thessaloniki lost consciousness from acute illness. After examining the patient, the doctors who arrived at the scene made a decision. Not a tenant. Having regained consciousness, Alexander was seriously afraid for his life. He also admitted that he is a killer. And he begged to be saved, promising to thoroughly repent of all his crimes. The doctors did everything they could. And after a series of operations, having lost one kidney, Thessaloniki began to recover. He did not keep his word. More precisely, while in rehabilitation, he took on all possible orders. Even those that he didn't commit. And then, realizing that his life was not in danger, he began to disown them. As soon as the doctors told the investigators that there was no point in keeping Solinik in the hospital, it was decided to transfer the suspect to the famous capital's Matroskia Tishina detention center. Thessalonik was assigned to a separate cell, where he began to learn English while passing the time. And look at the globe brought to him by the lawyer. This behavior did not alert the detectives, but in vain. The killer was already hatching another escape plan followed by disappearance abroad. He understood perfectly well that he would not be able to get out on his own. He relied either on his friends or on a rich mistress, which Thessaloniki managed to acquire in the capital. Natalia was ready to do anything for him. One can only guess which version worked in the end. However, according to rumors, $1 million were allocated for the operation to free the killer. On the night of June 5, 1995, the door to Solenik's cell opened. And 20-year-old junior sergeant, police officer Sergei Menshikov, appeared in front of the hitman. He ordered the prisoner to follow him, led him along the empty corridor of the detention center and led him to the roof, where pre-prepared ropes and climbing equipment awaited them, with the help of which both went down the steep wall and disappeared. The disappearance of the warden and the criminal was not immediately noticed. At first, the detention center staff were alarmed by Sergei's long absence. In this regard, it was decided to urgently inspect all the cameras. There was silence in Solenik's solitary cell. Having pulled the blanket off the bed, the law enforcement officers were stunned. There, instead of a dangerous killer, there was a dummy. The alarm was declared and the entire local police were brought to their feet. Operatives with dogs canvassed nearby areas. However, by this time the fugitives were already sitting in an apartment rented by Menshikov on the outskirts of Moscow. Thessaloniki did not risk staying in the capital for long and soon moved to the Vladimir region. He did not shy away from his neighbors, on the contrary, he happily maintained dialogues about the weather and politics. And he liked to say smugly that you'll find out who you lived next door to. I spent nothing at all in a private house in Thessaloniki. And after waiting for a passport in the name of a native of Georgia, Vladimir Kesov, he rushed to Greece. The documents were not forged, but stolen from the archives during the Abkhaz conflict. He flew away just in time, and a few days later a search was carried out in his temporary shelter. Instead of the long-awaited fugitive, the police found a few of his personal belongings. We found a clearing in the nearby forest with riddled trees. Alexander set up a shooting range for himself in the new place, where he continued to hone his skills. When detectives examined the area around the liquidator's former refuge, he had already moved into a luxurious villa located in the resort town of Lagonisi. Thessaloniki paid $5,000 a month for its rent. Thessalonik was in no hurry to return to his former craft, he had a lot of money. According to approximate data, he kept about $2 million in various banks. At the same time, through his own people, he continued to monitor how events were developing in the capital after the death of Sylvester and the defeat of the Kurgan organized crime group. And he categorically did not like the new arrangement. The liquidator despised the brothers Oleg and Andrei Pilev Medvedkovskaya and Sergei Butorin Orakhovsky PG who came to power, but the killer did not want to go into open confrontation, but he could not resist discussing hated persons. He had no idea that his villa was equipped with bugs. The listening device, on the orders of Andrei Pilev, was installed by Solenik's colleague, the Medvedkovsky's full-time liquidator Alexander Sherstobaitov, Lyasha Soldat. He continued to fearlessly dream out loud. If possible, everyone should be expended. The Orakhovo Medvedkovskys understood that this was empty chatter. Solenik's Kurgan friends were defeated by law enforcement agencies and he had no support. On the other hand, there were no guarantees that the killer would not find a new powerful owner with whom he would have the same plans to eliminate unwanted bandits. The leaders of the organized crime group did not doubt for long, in the presence of Lesha the soldier, and another famous killer of those years, Alexander Pustovalov, Sasha the soldier. They didn't need the Kurgan thug. Thessaloniki was given a death sentence. Soldier Sasha was assigned to eliminate Alexander. He took 2 militants with him and in early 1997 took a direct flight to Athens. The plan was clearly developed, the bandits settled in a villa next to Solenik and made contact with the future victim. Fortunately, the relationship between the two Alexanders was friendly. Everything turned out exactly as planned. Thessaloniki was delighted with the visitors. On January 31, Pustovalov invited everyone to spend the evening at their villa. When Thessalonik raised his glass to the hosts, Pustovalov threw a pre-prepared iron cord around his neck. With the help of other liquidators, it was not difficult to strangle Alexander. Thessaloniki's mistress, Svetlana Kotova, suffered the same fate. The body of Alexander Thessaloniki was taken to the suburbs of Athens and dumped in a ravine. According to tradition, Pustovalov dismembered Kotova's corpse, wrapped the insides in a towel and put them in a travel bag brought from the Thessaloniki villa. The soldier buried the luggage with its terrible contents not far from the villa. The operatives were helped to find it by stray dogs who dug up the suitcase. Thessaloniki was found thanks to a scheme left by the liquidators as if specifically for the operatives. The son was identified by his mother, who hastily arrived in Athens. However, she did not want to take the body to Russia. Keeler was buried in the Greek cemetery. After some time, the grave, which no one cared for, was destroyed in accordance with local laws. The ashes of the famous liquidator were thrown into a common pit and filled with acid.